Let me start out.
Well, let's get into it. Go ahead. Sorry.
I am going to give you that UPS example. They had a strike. My first question is, why did U.S. management, allow the union to go to that stage where there will be a strike? There was no need for it. But what happened was, union had some demands. They were pretty reasonable, but of course, union, you ask a little more than you will get, and they had that. But the group, management group that was negotiating, they denied almost everything. Now, what was the consequence? UPS was losing $3 million per day, and the packages piled up, and some institutional orders were changed. Some organizations said, we'll go with Federal Express. UPS is not very reliable. Union lost all its funds, and of course, UPS lost quite heavily because it continued for several weeks. And they did compromise at the end. That means the managers had to give some things that the union wanted, but union didn't get the full amount, and the unions gave up some of the demands. But there was the compromise, and it should not be that way.
So you've heard the example of UPS as we have this final conversation on conflict management with one of the world's leading researchers and authorities on conflict management, Dr. Afzal Rahim. Let's jump right back in there.
Okay.
So you were talking about the UPS strike, and obviously strikes are good examples of conflict. And there's the management on one side, and then there's the union and the workers on the other. So it qualifies in this topic of intergroup conflict. And you talked about how there was winners and losers in that example.
There are winners and losers. Actually, some of the surveys indicated that both parties were unhappy as a result of this settlement. But that's not conflict management. Conflict management means both parties will be satisfied that it was a good decision. And actually, I would not allow this negotiation go that far. The leaders did not do a good job.
So they could have done something different.
They could have done something different. For example, once the conflict starts, you are not talking to people face to face. You are talking through your lawyer, and everything is in writing. Hey, if you go and talk to somebody, hey, don't do that. We have a unified front.
Yes.
That means intra-group conflict is less. And Likert, for example, many years ago, said that some people become heroes, that actually they are the bad guys. They said, don't negotiate soft, negotiate hard with the manager, and things get worse. But intra-group conflict is reduced, and I want to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Yes. Well, these are the conflicts I think we all think about. So in other conversations, we've been talking about intra-individual, intra-group, and I think these are the conflicts that I think people look at, and an iconic one, it would be labor and management in conflict with each other, or governments in
interdepartmental conflict or management union conflict. This is complex, but what I want to tell you is that you go for integrating style.
Yeah, and tell us what that is one more time in this last conversation.
See,
that integrative style.
If there is a union, in Japanese organizations, they don't allow unions.
Right.
Allow means the workers have decertified their unions, and you have to create that climate before it happens. Now, if you don't have that, then there will be a lot of informal and formal discussions. But we are not thinking about a strike. And we have to even bring some experts. They can tell you what is fair or not. The two parties, management thinks that they are right and union thinks right. What about some, people like mediators?
Yes.
We can get mediators, and there are all sorts of mediation, for example, or arbitration.
Yes.
There is American Arbitration Association, and there are several formats that if you sign that we will accept mediators, arbitrators' recommendation, they will talk to both parties. And they are very fair. They are not going to take any side, and they will give you a decision. This is what is right.
Yes.
But they will talk separately to both groups. That is arbitration. And mediation is a little bit different. Like husband, wife has conflict, and there is a mediator, maybe father-in-law who is mediating.
Oh my. Wow. Okay.
There is a mediator.
Yes.
And mediator has power. Like you have agreed that whatever the mediator says is final, or you might say that I can walk away from the mediator and nothing will happen.
That both of you would listen, but
I don't like that kind of thing, because you are spending money to bring a mediator. Mediator will take some time to study both groups, and then they will give a decision. And this is least expensive, because if it goes to the court, some things were going on for years, and the courts could not make up their mind.
So you've talked about two very common interventions, and that of arbitration, where an umpire makes a decision, and then mediation, where it could be either final or just a suggestion.
Yes.
A little like marriage counseling, I think, a mediator. And these are two interventions that used to be only seen in the union setting, but now many companies use that same approach.
Yeah, it can be used in other settings as well.
And I think the Supreme Court some years ago said it was okay to take EEO kind of complaints and have employees agree that we would use an arbitrator, so it would move faster.
So, ADR, alternative dispute
ADR.
Resolution. I'll take 1 minute.
Talk about that.
There was a case, and it continued for several years, and they totally spent $10 million. Wow. It was copyright infringement. But Harvard arranged this meeting that there was a retired judge, he was presiding, and there were two parties, and the vice president from each party made a presentation. There was a discussion, and there was an agreement that we will withdraw our lawsuits and we will not, and it was signed. But before that, it was decided by the court that is acceptable. So whatever they said, that is, and see, they were fighting for years, and it was not going anywhere, because copyright infringement is a difficult thing.
Oh yeah, it's tough.
And so they said that we will not waste any more money on the lawyers, and it was settled. It took half a day.
So these interventions in intergroup conflict could be structured like having in a rule book or a union contract, arbitration, mediation, some kind of third party or ADR intervention.
Third party is there, in the ADR.
And in the union environment, there's Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service, FMCS, that is a free service. I've had a number of students who wanted to get some certification in mediation. And so there are some certifications out there for mediation, coaching, etc.
I see some ads from Louisville. They are offering courses on mediation and advanced mediation.
Yes, they have a center there.
Yeah. They can give you certificates on those.
Yeah, so you can get a certificate. So students that are interested in pursuing some kind of credential in intergroup conflict in a structured sort of way can do that. They can go after that. Now, we've had a lot of good conversations, and I want to take you into one more, and that is not really the last topic, but it's a central topic, I think, and that is ethics and morality in conflict. What's the big thing to think about?
What is the big thing?
Yeah, what's the big thing?
If you get stuck, if you are thinking about whether my decision is right or wrong, think about ethics, the consideration about right and wrong. If your heart says that what I am doing is not exactly right, don't do that. Because if you are, for example, a manager and your subordinates, two subordinates had conflicts or three of them, you are going to make a decision as to what it is. You should think about ethics. Ethics rules should not be violated. The thing that you are doing, is that thing right, or it is violating some of the norms of ethics?
Because a lot of people just want to win.
Yeah, people
right?
want to win.
So they'll do anything to win, right?
But Urian Fisher says in a colorful way that you are like somebody from the moon.
Yes.
And you are completely objective. Yes, the supervisor should be trained to be completely objective. You listen to both sides. You can even talk to these individuals, separately.
Mm-hmm.
You can all give some hints, but you give a decision that is acceptable to both parties. And we have seen people are satisfied because you consulted them. You possibly told that some of your demands are out of line, but you have to compromise. But this sort of negotiation is needed in organizations because there are many conflicts going on.
Yes.
And intergroup is the most difficult, but we know the symptoms of what is going to happen. Like intergroup, group think will be there. Mm-hmm. Each group thinks that they are the best. They cannot make any mistakes.
Of course.
This sort of beliefs is not the way to go. They should be critical about their beliefs, but if you are under external threat, that you lose your objectivity, you become very cohesive, but that's not the way it should be. And Likert has said few things about these leaders. He said these are demagogues.
Yes.
During these conflicting times, there is the emergence of autocratic leaders. No, that is not the way it should be.
One lesson I learned in corporate negotiation was if one of the parties in intergroup conflict was caught lying, they were worthless in that negotiation. That person had just to leave.
If you are playing games and if you get caught, yes, there will be serious consequences. Then you will lose your prestige and people don't want you anymore in the team.
Well, they can't trust you. There's an issue of trust.
There is the issue of trust, yeah. There is not a high trust, but some amount of trust, but you can lose trust. And there were some studies on the dirty tricks and other things that is used. But principal negotiation means that you are objective. And also you are insisting that other party, believes in it. Let us do some brainstorming to see whether we can define the problems differently and what are the alternative solutions. And if you have one problem and one solution, that will lead to disaster if you do that. So that Harvard principle, the few things we discussed, if you are in a negotiating situation, if you are an arbitrator or a negotiator, yes, you should follow these principles. And there is a thin book. It is win-win solution they talk about, and it is. I don't think anything has changed. There are many books on negotiations, but I think I will still read that book. And I actually, in conflict management, I used to ask people to buy and read the book. Okay.
One thing I saw in negotiations going after the win-win was instead of sitting across the table from each other, sit on the same side with each other.
I think
that we share a viewpoint rather than have to oppose one another.
Actually, in labor management negotiation, the managers on this side and workers, you are giving a signal that there are two parties that don't trust each other. No, you don't. That artifact says something about it, but
yeah. Well, we're not going to be able to tease all of the information that one might have about conflict management, but we thank our viewers for watching Conversations on Conflict Management. I'm Bob Hatfield.
Thank you very much, Bob. I think it was an excellent discussion.
But we got into a lot of stuff.
We did.